Hey guys, what is up? And welcome back to another episode of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, Justice for All. In the last episode, we finished off the second investigation. We found out everything about, whatever happened 6 months ago with, Acro's brother, Bat, getting into a coma because of Leon. And now because of that, Acro has a huge grudge on Regina. Also, Acro broke his legs due to that accident from trying to save Bat. So now, we're going into the trial. I'm not exactly completely sure what's going to happen here, but let's get going. Jesus Christ. December 30th, 9:41 a.m., District Court Defendant Lobby number 5. Good morning, Max. Oh, yeah, good morning, sweeties. You don't seem like your usual sparkling self today. I'm always like this before I go in front of an audience. I'm working up to it.
Don't get nervous, Maxie. Here, have a glass of milk. Regina!
How fabulous! My sweetie pie princess! You came to watch my performance today?
Of course I did! Mo told me that I should come and watch this.
Mo said that?
So, what kind of performance will you put on today? Let me guess, you'll fly at the end?
It's not that kind of show. Isn't that right, my sweeties?
Huh?
I think my sweetie pie princess doesn't... Yeah, she doesn't seem to realize what's going on, or even where she is.
Well, Max, it looks like it's time to raise the curtain. I'll see you later. Today I'm just a member of the audience.
Fabulous. Enjoy yourself out there.
Good luck, Max. You're the best. Regina's different, don't you think, Nick?
Top of the morning to ya! Everybody, let's get ready to get stuck in limbo. How low can you go?
Mo.
Top of the morning to you, Governor.
Top of the morning.
That's the ticket. Attacking the day starts with energy in the morning. The early bird gets the worm, but then again, worms lack higher brain function. Here, Max, I brought you a present. Have some milk.
Oh my, thank you.
So how are you today, Wright?
Well, I've got the feeling that today I'm gonna face off against the real criminal.
You mean Acro?
Huh? You think he did it?
Be careful. He's used to putting his life on the line, literally. He's got guts to spare.
If all I got to worry about is how thin the tightrope is, I'm used to it already. It just means that I won't be able to press him like I can with other witnesses.
What are you gonna do then, Nick?
I guess today we'll just have to do without our usual psychological warfare. Today we rely on evidence. It's the only way we'll get past Acro and to the truth.
You're right, but it's gonna be tough.
Anyways, I want you to make sure that Regina sees it all today. It's important. Then she'll finally have to deal with the reality of what happened to her father.
You want us to make sure Regina watches?
Yes, that's why I brought her here to court today.
What's that supposed to mean?
She needs to know that when people die, they don't just become stars. I may be an old-fashioned clown, but I don't believe in people becoming stars.
I mean, it's a sweet thing to tell your daughter.
December 30th, 10 a.m., District Court number 2. And that's probably what the ringmaster meant by telling her that anyway. The court is now in session for the trial of Maximilian Galactica. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. The defense is ready, Your Honor. Very well, Miss Von Karma, you may proceed with your case. The prosecution would like to revise its previous theory of events. What's the meaning of this? We have discovered a new witness, or shall I say, a new eyewitness. One that saw Maximilian Galactica fly out from the scene of the crime. Order! I had a feeling something like this would come up. Due to his revision, we are now prepared to explain how the defendant flew that night. An explanation the prosecution will present if the need so arises. In fact, my detective stayed up all night creating a mock-up of the scene on my orders. Poor Gumshoe. Very well. Please call your witness to the stand. Time to get to work, or shall I say time to walk the courtroom tightrope. Hello there, Acro. Oh, he's got little birds. Name and occupation. Ken Dingling, but everyone calls me Acro. I'm employed as an acrobat at the Berry Big Circus. Where were you the night of the crime? I was in my room that night. If you look at the map, you will see the witness's room is near the crime scene. My room is on the 3rd floor. The crime scene is below my window. The night of the crime, the witness saw something quite shocking. Would you tell us what you witnessed? Okay. It was just after 10 p.m. and I was resting in my bed. Around that time, I heard a large thump noise from outside the window. Then a few moments later, I saw someone flying right by my window. It was Max Galactica. I only saw him from behind, but that's who it looked like. To be honest, when I saw that, I thought I was dreaming. Here's something that I find interesting about his, the picture that recalls his events. It has a silk top, it has the top hat, but the top hat was dropped at the scene of the crime, which means that it shouldn't have been there. If that's the case, then there is very little the prosecution need add. All that's left is to explain how the defendant disappeared into the sky that night. Before we get that far, I'd like to cross-examine the witness. A foolish choice by a foolish fool who wishes to feel the foolish sadness of a sad fool. A man must know the proper timing for things, Mr. Phoenix Wright. Just like your old friend, Mr. Miles Edgewood did. Shut up! Mr. Wright, do you have a problem with the witness's testimony? In the words of Miss Von Karma, may I quote yesterday's proceedings? There's no way that actually happened. Very well. You may proceed with your cross-examination. Okay. It was just after 10 p.m. and I was resting in my bed. Okay. Around that time, I heard a large thump noise from outside the window. Then a few moments later, I saw someone flying right by my window. It was Max Galactica. I only saw him from behind, but that's who it looked like. The light in your room was turned off then, right? That's true. I was going to bed after all. So with the lights off, you were still able to clearly see a human fly by your window? The safety lights lit things up enough for me to see, but honestly, there was only enough light for me to see the silhouette outside my window. It was the person's back, so I couldn't see the white roses on the front. Did you see any of the other symbols? I clearly saw the silk hat as well as the cloak wrapped around his body. I'm convinced that the person I saw was Max Galactica. The more I press him, the less results I seem to get. But maybe there was something fishy with his latest bit of testimony. Contradiction. There was a huge contradiction with the testimony that was just given. If there's a contradiction, then prove it with evidence. She's right. Let's see some evidence. Do you have any evidence to support your claim of a contradiction? Yes. You claim to have seen the exact thing Mo saw that night. Do you stand by that? What do you mean? The silk hat. What about the silk hat? I saw it on Max's head as he flew by my window. Well, you should have tried looking down out of your window that night. That would have been quite difficult considering the state that I'm in. Just looking outside of the window was a tough enough challenge for me. That's a shame because you would have noticed the silk hat found on the scene. That's the ringmaster's hat, right? Afraid not. No matter how you look at it, this is Max's silk hat. Where are you going with this, Mr. Wright? Are you saying that Max has 2 silk hats? No, this is a handmade, one-of-a-kind model made only for Maximilian Galactica, which means, Acro, that you've been fibbing on the stand. Order! Like always, someone has to open their mouth before thinking. Are you okay, Nick? Well, I opened my big mouth and now I had to back it up. How about it, Mr. Wright? What would cause this witness to commit perjury in this court today? He has a grudge against Max. Acro was dreaming. Acro is the real culprit. Your Honor, on this occasion, the defense accuses Acro himself. On this occasion? Accuses Acro? What in the world are you accusing him of? Obviously, we accuse him of the murder of Mr. Russell Berry. Mr. Wright, are you serious? Deadly serious, Your Honor. I think your trips to the circus have served you well. You seem to remember how to try and grab at an audience's hearts and minds. Your Honor, don't allow yourself to be swayed by theatrics. Trying to wow the crowd with smoke and mirrors is the oldest bluff in the book. Really? If you don't believe me, just look at the witness. He's calm enough for it to almost be scary. He is staying rather calm and collected. And stop poking me, you stupid hummingbird. Mr. Dingling, do you have any response to the defense's accusation? I don't really need to say a thing, do I? What do you mean? Everyone, take a good look at me. I can't even stand up by myself, let alone leave the lodging house. But that's true. I understand that Mr. Wright is just trying to help his client. But to do this by accusing me of murder of all things? See, even a sliver of common sense makes it clear that the accusation is ludicrous. She's right. Way to pick on the disabled, you heartless, cruel man. Phoenix is a poopy head! See that, Mr. Phoenix, right? If you're trying to drum up support from the peanut gallery, that's how you do it. I think that's enough of this little game. I've got a doctor's note to confirm that Acro was unable to stand under his own power. Maybe the defense is planning on making a claim to counter this as well? I can hear the defense now. Acro had an accomplice. What do you say about this, Mr. Wright? Did Acro have an accomplice? I don't think he did. I think he did this all by himself. I'm gonna say he did it all by himself. Now then, this must be where we get to hear the name of the mystery accomplice. Not this time, Miss Von Karma. What? You're not gonna sucker me into this one. What are you blabbering about, Mr. Wright? There was no accomplice. Acro planned and committed this murder all by himself. Hold on. What are you getting at?
Way to keep them on their toes, Nick.
Now I'm gonna have to prove it how it all fits together. I have to show how Acro murdered Russell Berry.
Can you do it, Nick? Can you really do that?
I know what I can't do. I can't stop now. If I stop attacking, I'm doomed.
All right, then let's do it.
Mr. Phoenix Wright. If this witness is the killer, then his eyewitness account is all lies, right? Mr. Wright, I'd like you to clear something up for me. When the crime was committed, exactly where was Mr. Dingling? Well, he couldn't leave the room, so he was in his room. He committed the murder from his room. He was obviously here the entire time. That's Acro's room? Pretty simple, eh? Acro wasn't able to leave the lodging house by himself. There's only one answer to that. Acro didn't leave his room to kill the ringmaster.
What? Are you nuts?
What say you, Mr. Dingling? It's an interesting theory. That's it? Considering that what you propose is impossible, yes, that's it. Okay, Acro. Mr. Wright. Yes, Your Honor? As the witness has stated, your assertion is impossible. As he is in a wheelchair, there is no way he could go to the scene or be the killer. You got a point. It seems you've forgotten once again, Mr. Phoenix Wright. The defendant was clearly spotted at the scene of the crime.
That's true. Mo said that he saw Max, didn't he?
But Maya, it's still impossible for humans to fly. Do you mind if I ask a question, Mr. Wright? What is it? I understand some of your logic, however, how do you think that I killed him? If I can't leave my room, I obviously couldn't wear Max's costume. How did he do it? That's the next course of this legal buffet.
Be careful, Nick. If you mess up here...
She's right. I can't mess up here. I've got to give this one some serious thought. I'm sure that Acro killed the ringmaster, and he killed the ringmaster while he was in his room, no doubt about it. Time to enlighten us as to how Mr. Dingling committed the crime, Mr. Wright.
Shit.
I have a feeling I know what it is, but also... Is it too early? Am I too far ahead? Frick. Oh. I'm going to present some evidence. So what did Mr. Dingling use to commit the crime of murder against Russell Berry? What's that? A picture? He used a picture to kill Mr. Russell Berry. It is indeed. The problem is with the item that's shown in the picture. The bust? It's quite a large bust, and because it is life-sized, it's also very, very heavy. Heavy? Heavy enough to guarantee a certain death, especially if it was dropped from a third-story window. Ah! See? This is how Acro was able to kill the Ringmaster, with the force of gravity and Maximilian Galactica's ample bust. Order! So you're saying the bust fell onto the Ringmaster? A rather simple crime. Even if you were stuck in a wheelchair, it would be incredibly easy to commit. How could you possibly wheel a wheelchair with something so heavy? It's impossible! Well, Acro is an acrobat. He should have more than enough upper body strength to carry something like the bust. Mr. Dingling, how do you respond to these charges? Well,
Acro's at a loss for words.
He should be. He knows that I'm getting close to the truth. Well, Acro, you can't run away from— Ow! I'd watch what I say if I were you, Mr. Phoenix Wright. What? Your Honor, the physical health of the witness is material to this case. I demand that we get a proper testimony from the witness himself. Testimony, you say? Oh, karma. She's just using this testimony as a rouse to stall for time. There is absolutely no need for such testimony. The defense has its version of the murder. The prosecution has the right to respond. The defense's objection is overruled. Why can't he see things my way once in a while? This is unfair. Mr. Dingling, I'm sorry, but we need you to testify about your physical condition. If you have any doubts about your ability to testify, we can request expert testimony. The witness will have no problems, however. Let's all be respectful towards him. Thank you. That woman will sink to any low to win a case. I suppose I could have lifted something the size of that bust. I have a strong upper body from working as an acrobat, and only my legs were injured. However, lifting the bust and looking out of the window would have been impossible. There's no way I could have exerted that kind of force on my lower body. That makes it impossible for me to have known the location of the Ringmaster's head. Thus, it would be unrealistic for me to drop the bust on him, don't you think? I have no doubts in regards to this witness's testimony.
It was impossible for him to lift the bust and carry it over to the window. Not to mention that he could not have known the location of the Ringmaster's head. A single false step would have led to even more severe injuries.
That's what I was thinking. What is your opinion on the matter, Mr. Wright? I'd still like to proceed with my cross-examination.
He's simply stalling. It's shameful, really.
I can't let her get to me. I got to focus. I suppose I could have listed something the size of that bust. I have a strong upper body from working as an acrobat and only my legs were injured. However, lifting the bust and looking out of the window would have been impossible. There's no way I could have exerted that kind of force on my lower body. That makes it impossible for me to have known the location of the Ringmaster's head. Why do you say it would be impossible? Allow me to explain. You accept that if I was carrying the bust, I couldn't see out below the window. Thus, there's no way I would have known the location of the Ringmaster's head. Well, I suppose you got a point.
Hey, Nick.
Huh?
What if you turn things around? Maybe if you think of it sort of like this. If he knew the location of the Ringmaster's head, then he could drop the bust.
That doesn't make sense. If only I could prove somehow that Acro knew the location of the Ringmaster's head without looking down. I think I've already explained things sufficiently. If all you had to do was drop it, then it wouldn't have been a problem at all.
If all I had to do was drop it, you're right, I could have done that. However, there's no way I could score a direct hit on the ringmaster's head.
So that kind of makes your theory a bit pointless, doesn't it, Mr. Wright?
Acro was strong enough to lift up the bust. The main problem is how he could have aimed for the ringmaster's head. I wonder if he used some kind of tool to aim for the ringmaster.
That's the ticket, Nick! Show them what you've got!
I have to be careful. I have to find something that fits perfectly with the case. I don't remember us finding any sort of tool, but maybe we overlooked something. Do I have to present something? I know what it is, this.
Oh, let's go!
Acro, you didn't really need to lean out of the window, did you? What are you driving at, Mr. Wright? You already knew ahead of time where the ringmaster's head was going to be. Quite precisely, I may add.
Your silly hinting at things is pointless, Mr. Phoenix Wright. Enough stalling. How about you show us some evidence?
But I did such a good job hinting. Yes, hurry up and explain things, Mr. Wright.
Maybe you should take a look at this. The key point here is the wooden box.
The same wooden box that the victim was found hunched over?
The same. The question is, who placed the wooden box here? Who? When Ben and company saw the ringmaster, they didn't see him holding the box, which means that this wooden box was already placed at the scene of the crime.
I have to admit that your theory makes a lot of sense.
The moment that the bust came falling down was exactly the same moment that the ringmaster lifted up this wooden box. Which means that the answer to all of these questions is now crystal clear.
You mean, if the bust were to fall upon the point marked out by the wooden box, there would be no way that it could miss the head of the victim?
Really?
Order! This is unbelievable!
Finally, some of these loose ends are starting to tie themselves up. Now I just gotta keep going. And there's only one way to go from here, forward.
So the next question I have is, who placed that wooden box at the scene?
It was Mr. Dingling, of course. He connected it to a rope, and then all he had to do was lower it down.
Ow!
Allow me to whip some sense into you. Mr. Phoenix Wright!
Ow!
The ringmaster's head could have been anywhere when he lifted the box.
That's why the box was so specially made.
Specially made?
Indeed. It had the most peculiar feature.
The size of the box?
The box was a remarkable size.
Size?
Exactly. I think you can tell from the picture that the wooden box was very large. To lift it up, one would have been required to squat.
Meaning that one would have had to taken it up in both arms, right?
Moreover, the box is quite heavy. It weighs in the neighborhood of 20 pounds.
The box also has carrying handles on either side, doesn't it?
That is correct. To lift up the box, you'd have to squat down. Which means that no matter who you are, your head would be in approximately the same place.
Fool!
He's so calm. Does she even bother to listen to me anymore? I've heard what you've had to say. I must admit, I'm shocked at your imaginative skills.
Did you drop it? Did you drop the bust onto the ringmaster?
What are you talking about? Even if I had wanted to do such a thing, I couldn't. What? Mr. Wright, do you recall the original location of this bust? I remember. Of course I remember. It was on top of the table in the cafeteria.
Then what happened to it?
I'd like you to remember one important fact, Mr. Wright. I could not possibly leave the lodging house by myself.
That means...
You understand what I mean, don't you? I may very well have been able to drop the bus from my room. However, how would I have gotten the bus from the cafeteria to my room?
You see, Mr. Phoenix Wright, explain that.
Don't forget, you said there was no accomplice. Ugh. Tell us exactly how the witness would have carried the bus from the cafeteria. Yep, we definitely have a problem here. But this is no place to get perplexed. I've got to get my wits about me and prove how things happen once and for all. Well, alright, Mr. Wright, let's hear your explanation. How did the witness get the bus from the cafeteria back to his room? Money. A monkey? Everyone knows money. He loves shiny objects of any size. For instance, he stole the ventriloquist's ring. So, are you saying the witness had a monkey steal the bust? Of course he didn't order the monkey to steal it. The monkey stole it on his own and then brought it back home. Home? Money lives in Acro's room. Acro's room? But the bust was bronze, wasn't it? Bronze isn't all that shiny. Maybe you should put the whip down sometimes and read the court record. My, those are some very nice cards he's holding. Yes, and they're made of platinum, which is very shiny. Ah! Acro. Money is a strong monkey, right? It'd be easy for him to bring the bus back to your room. If he wasn't able to handle that himself, I'd be on the market for a new roommate. Order! I said order, Miss Von Karma! Where is the bust in question at this moment? I don't know. We're searching for it as we speak. This is a strange turn of events. If that monkey did not steal the bust, then what happens to this case? Well, in that event, something else must have been used as the murder weapon. Well, Or maybe this bust was the murder weapon, but it was used by accident. That's possible. Maybe Acro saw Money's mountain of stolen goods and thought to use one of them. Anyways, I think we've more than proven one critical fact. Namely, that it was entirely possible that Acro was the murderer. Moron! Mr. Wright's argument was so circular, I'm a bit dizzy. However, his argument does hold water. There's no denying that. Ow! Don't seem so bamboozled, especially by this fraud of an attorney. Fraud? You've forgotten the absolute most important thing, Mr. Phoenix Wright. And what is that? You should know. You forgot that your fraud of a magical client was spotted at the scene of the crime. Ugh! There was no reason to doubt the clown's testimony. But that's true. How do you respond to that, Mr. Wright? Nick, don't let her beat you now. I won't. This is my chance to turn the trial around. When the murder occurred, there were two people at the scene of the crime. One was the victim, Russell Berry, and the other was the murderer himself. Answer this and only this, Mr. Phoenix Wright. The clown saw the murderer. Who was it then? The bust? Question mark? Oh, help me, please. He saw Max's Ow! I asked who was the other person Mo saw on the scene. That evidence has nothing to do with the question. Au contraire, mon frère, it does indeed have something to do with the question. Mo said that he saw Max's silhouette. But he did not actually see the man himself. It wasn't a human being he saw. How is that possible? It's simple, really. What Mo actually saw that night was Max's bust. What are you talking about? Have you tried using your brain at all in this case? The silhouette he saw just happened to be wearing a cloak. There's no reason why you couldn't attach a cloak to the bust. Or a cloak like that could easily get snagged on the bust if they came into contact. Idiot! Who in their right mind would put a cloak on a bust? It doesn't matter who put it on the bust. Just wait a minute now, Mr. Wright. Who put the cloak on the bust? That question is of utmost importance to this case, don't you agree? Oh, he caught me. So let's have it, Mr. Wright. Who put the cloak on the bust? We have to present evidence for this one? Okay, Phoenix said something, right?
the cloak could easily get snagged onto the cloak, so what if, onto the bus, so what if it was an accident? But then there isn't a who. So then would it just be Russell Berry? When he was killed? Bro, I don't know. Fool! Him? You are saying he was a victim himself, Russell Berry? That's what I'm saying. The victim himself placed the cloak on the bust? Place the cloak isn't really the right way of putting it. Then what would be the right way of putting it, Mr. Wright? Explain yourself. Nick, do you really have a handle on all this? I'm fine, Maya. I'm finally putting all the pieces together. There's really only one picture I can paint anyways. Alright. So you want to know what really happened that night. Let's step back in time. Acro used a rope to lower the wooden box onto the scene. Then he attached that rope onto the bust, and dangled the bust out of his bedroom window directly above the wooden box. At the same time, the ringmaster told Max to wait in his room and went to the scene. Of course, at the time, the ringmaster was wearing Max's costume. Perhaps he didn't want anyone to recognize him that night. But just as he feared, he was spotted at the entrance of the lodging house by none other than the ventriloquist and his puppet, Ben and Trilo. When the ringmaster arrived at the scene, he bent over to lift the wooden box. And that's when Acro took his chance and released the rope. Now this is when the magic happens. At the very instant that the bust hit the victim. Ow! Huh. You wait just a second there, Mr. Phoenix Wright. As much as you try, as much as you scheme, this just isn't true. It can't be. It's still a little early to be getting so upset, Miss Von Karma. This circus isn't over yet. Huh? With the shock of impact, it threw up the cloak and it got snagged onto the bust. That's when the sound was heard by a witness and he took a look out the window. That witness was, of course, Lawrence Mo Curls, the clown. When Mo looked out of his window, the cloak had already snagged onto the bust. Now, having completed the crime, Acro naturally went about pulling up the murder weapon. Of course, he had no idea Mo saw the bust being raised with the cloak dangling on it. Primarily because in his wheelchair he couldn't see out of the window, so he just kept pulling the bust up. And he flew! With the cape! And that is how the magical murder disappearing into the sky came to be. Yo! Now you know how the murder actually took place. And now you know who was able to drop the murder weapon from above the scene. Acro! It could only have been you! Is he good? Acro's been playing mind games with all of us. He sure has. But he has come to the end of his rope now. So, what now? You've graced us with a rather long-winded tale. But do you have any evidence to prove that your fairy tale is true? Evidence? In this court, only two things matter. The power of evidence and the power of my whip. Don't forget the power of my gavel as well. Mr. Wright, the prosecution brings up a good point. Can we see some evidence? Nick, they say they want evidence. I just explained how there can only be one possible murder method. But there's still something unusual about Mo's eyewitness account. Unusual? A contradiction, actually. Okay then, use that and get us out of this jam. That's enough talking amongst yourselves. Proceed, Mr. Wright. Present some evidence to the court that backs your claims. I want hard proof that you have unraveled the trick to this magic case. I don't know. I don't know. The problem is Max's 3 symbols. You know, the silk hat, the cloak, and the white roses. Those symbols were a problem numerous times during yesterday's proceedings. Yesterday there were 2 contradictions in Mo's testimony. The silk hat was one, the white roses were the other. But the theory I just presented explains all of these contradictions. You fool! Had you ever shut up? The Max's silk hat was found at the scene of the crime. However, remember what Mo said yesterday. He testified that the criminal he saw fleeing the scene was wearing a silk hat. There's only one explanation for that. The silk hat that Mo saw was actually the bust. Makes sense. If you look at it that way, then he did see the silk hat. Well, sort of. Fine, you've got one, but what about the other contradiction? The other contradiction? Remember what that ventriloquist said in court? He said that he witnessed white roses on Max's chest that night. But the clown's testimony doesn't match. The clown said that there were no white roses. I'd like to see you try and explain that one away. Can you do it, Nick? Of course. I can explain all of it. What was that? Please recall the instant when the cloak snagged onto the bust. If the cloak snagged onto the bust, what happened to the white roses? Ah. Do you get it yet? If the cloak got snagged onto the front of the bust, it means that the white roses would end up on the back of the bust. Ah! Which explains why Mo didn't see it. The white roses were not visible because they were on the back side of the bust. Order, order! This is quite the shocking state of affairs. Mr. Wright's theory still sounds a bit absurd to me. However, let's just keep going down this road for a while and see where it leads.
Let's do this, Nick. Then maybe Von Karma will finally throw in the towel.
Oh, frick. Oh, come on.
Well, so much for that theory.
Mr. Wright, do you mind? What is it? You took the time to research our circus, didn't you? Well, yes, I did. Is there something making you think that I didn't? If you did, then maybe you'll understand why I think you're off track. Why is that? Motive. This witness feels an incredible debt of gratitude towards the ringmaster. Anyone with relation to the circus is well aware of this. Thus, there is absolutely no way someone like this would kill the ringmaster. Your Honor, I'd like you to hear Acro's full story. Learn about his relationship with the ringmaster and his life up until now. But what do we do? There's no doubting that Acro deeply respected the ringmaster. Acro's motive. It seems that this case isn't over yet. Very well. However, I feel this is a good place to take a break. I will listen to the rest of Mr. Dingling's testimony after recess. This court will now take a 10-minute recess. Whew, we're almost done. Oh my god, okay. I've got everything figured out, and now it's just a matter of presenting the right pieces of evidence. Which, hopefully that isn't too hard. Also, my voice is freaking dying. I've been recording for 2 hours. So that's fun. Anyways, that's it for this episode. Roll the end card.
Objection! You haven't hit like and subscribe yet. Hold it! You forgot to ring the bell to get notified whenever I upload. Take that! Click here to watch more of my videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye!